Hey, Micy, I thought you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. I was double muted. We're having some technology Wi-Fi issues, so I'm dialing on my phone audio. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining again on the fireside chat series we're having to celebrate Asian Heritage Month. We're here to inspire people, especially the Asian Americans in our community, through building a legacy using purpose, career, and wealth. We're also here to amplify Asian American voices through the leaders of our community. I'm your host, Micy Liu. I came to this country at the age of 16-year-old by myself as an exchange student. In fact, all my family members are still in China, except for my husband, who I married last year. So after being in the U.S. for a little more than a decade and arrived as a teenager, I really fell in love with this country and got used to so many great things in this country. So today, what we'll do is we'll have two great fireside chat series. But before we get to that, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story. As I mentioned, I came to this country at the age of 16, and the favorite thing I love about this country is the freedom it offers. The freedom made me feel safe to speak my minds in many places, and the freedom exposed me to my faith. And so many other people I know have joined this beautiful country for that freedom. In fact, in Chinese, America is translated to a beautiful country. So enough sappy story. Today, I want to talk about the other part of my identity and heritage, the Asian heritage. It is not something I can, will want to, or ever leave behind. It just no longer only means rice and spices. It means so much more: the humbleness, the hardworking, the excellence, and more. There is also a struggle I have for a balance between taking care of my family and pursuing independence and happiness. So in this month, Asian Heritage Month, I want to take this month, this opportunity to cherish our heritage and have the Fireside Chat series with Asian leaders in our community. Let's talk about building a legacy with purpose, career, and wealth. That's how I got started. I came to the U.S. with the purpose of making an impact and helping as many people as I could. Even I didn't know how, because I was just 16 years old. I was a teenager who literally cried in high school bathrooms during lunch breaks here in the U.S. because I didn't know which lunch table to sit at, which reminds me of Mean Girls for those that watched it. And then I started my career. Things were really going smoothly, and it was so different from high school and college. I got comfortable, a good paying job. I helped my family where I could. I pivoted my career multiple times from data analytics, also in supply chain, also in audit, and I grew while I was cross-functionally transitioning as well, thanks to many helpful mentors and peers along the way. And then COVID happened. It was a paradigm shift for me. While I'm grateful for my job, I also started asking myself, is it enough for me for the legacy I want to build, just doing what I was doing? I asked myself, how about the purpose I had when I came to this country, boarded my first plane ever to the U.S., and that's where I founded my real estate company, Life Mission Capital, where I make financial literacy one of my life missions. And you'll hear a lot more about that in this series of Fireside Chat series throughout the month as well. In fact, we partnered with President US, a nonprofit that has been helping kids around the world get started in their primary educations and just getting the foundations of the education done. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. I'm partnering with them through the registration. Every person that registers, I'll be donating $10. And also, if you ever want to donate, I'll be matching 50% up to $200 as well, and I'll also be donating on top of that. So I'm really excited and very, very passionate about that. I would love for you to join me on that mission as well. And I know that a lot of the speakers here are also very passionate about that. So a little sneak peek into our speakers. So we do have Sandy Lee, CEO of Warner Brands, speaking today, and also we'll have Tina speaking today. Sandy will be talking about what it takes to be a CFO, and Tina will be talking about health is wealth. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today while I bring her onto the camera. While we're here, I do want to remind you guys, when you register, we're doing a raffle for some of the impactful books I've had such as Rich Dad Poor Dad, Who Not How. So hopefully some of you will be able to get them. Now, Sandy, are you able to turn your
Not
camera
yet.
on?
I can't yet.
Okay, I think I got you. Yeah. I think you should be able to now.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you here, Sandy. So Sandy and I, we met through a colleague, old colleague of mine when I worked at a company in Chicago, and we were connected because that lady, that person thought that we're both very driven. We're both having big vision, big dreams of helping others. And she said, you and Sandy should connect. So we connected and we stayed in touch since then. And I just want to tell a little bit more about Sandy. Sandy, she has a few titles in her LinkedIn that you can see. She not only has her CPAs, MBAs, and she's a chief financial officer at Warner Brands. She also has deep expertise in driving significant strategic transformations through mergers and acquisitions, international business expansion, new business development, and ERP implementations. She was the vice president of finance, head of FP&A and treasury at Parallel, one of the largest private held multi-state cannabis operators in the U.S. And before entering the cannabis industry, she held a variety of senior leadership positions at both public and private companies. Sandy, she also spent years running her own computer hardware and software company in China. She holds an MBA from the University of Chicago, Booth School of Business and Finance, Strategy, and Entrepreneurship. And she has a master's degree in finance from Southwestern University of Finance and Economics. Sandy, she's also a CPA in Canada. So Sandy has many, many titles and degrees. And I'm so excited to have you here, Sandy. And I know that you just took on a new role, being the Chief Financial Officer. So thank you so much for making the time, among your new job and the relocation and everything.
Thank you, Micy, for your warm introduction. Very grateful and glad to be here.
Awesome. So how this will work today, this is our first time fireside chat. We're so grateful for you joining. So we'll have a few questions that I have prepared for Sandy. We'll go through them, and our team will be monitoring the chat here in the live platforms as well. We'll also see on our platforms. If you have anything, please type them out. And we'll also address them in the Q&A section as well. So Sandy, I know I did a professional intro of you, but I know there was so much more I didn't unpack. So can you tell us a little bit more about your overall professional, personal, and cultural background? And then I'll dive into some of the more details as well.
For sure, Micy. My background, of course, as you mentioned, that I started my career as an entrepreneur. I run my business, computer hardware, software distribution business after college for most of 6 years, and grew the business to one of the top distribution business in Southwest of China. That business really taught me a lot to really look at it from business perspective at a young age. And after that, we moved to North America. I worked for a Fortune 500 company, private equity, investment banking, and public company division of CFO. Here I am, become CFO of Warner Brands in Colorado. And my background, of course, I was born and raised in China, and have been working in international companies all my career. So, I really enjoy what I do, and really looking forward to, of course, grow the business as I always wanted to help others as well.
Awesome. So when did you come to the U.S., kind of following along that question? Because I know that you were in Canada prior as well, and then you came to the U.S. and you were in China. Like for me, my majority of my developmental years were in China, but coming here at 16, I got an interesting blend of U.S. culture and Chinese culture mixed within me. So I was curious about your cultural background and kind of the mixture as well.
So Micy, I think my culture is blended. Give an example when we watch Olympic Games, I said, hey, which team you should vote for? I consider myself, I don't really consider myself as specific individual country or not. I think it's for me is that, again, consider myself as international. Wherever I go, that's my country, that's my place. So I don't know if I want to give title, give what am I is Chinese, well, Canadian American Chinese. I'm not sure, but I think it will become a world citizen in a way. But I do, of course, carry since May is Asian Heritage Month. Of course, of course, I spent a lot of time in China. The Asian culture has shaped me.
Yeah,
who I am.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I noticed that there's kind of two perspectives out there in terms of kind of understanding the heritage, and most people really just want to be identified as a person that deserves respect, a person that deserves a promotion when it's time, a person, and the Asian culture is really a layer of us, but doesn't completely define us who we are as well. That's how I feel about it as well. No matter when I came here the first year or even today, almost 13 years later. So you have an interesting combination, not only because you're Asian, but also because you're a woman. I don't want to put labels out there, but it is interesting because there's not that many Asian CFOs and not many Asian women CFOs out there either. So what got you interested in finance? And then I would love to also learn a little more about, was it always your goal to become a CFO?
So what I always, of course, it's not like a stereotype. We're always good at numbers. When people think about a CFO, think about a finance, think about numbers, math, all this, which I am very good at those. But what I think of finance is everything related to finance. If you look at it, scale of the whole world, end of the day, it's all beyond the numbers. All the numbers, of course, put it together, become part of a finance. So I just think that I love data. I just, love numbers. But most important for me is what is beyond the numbers. What is story? What is business strategy? What true north of the company? So I love being part of a finance, but the broad is really whole business operation, strategy, marketing, customers, all this. So next question, I think you're asking, Micy, you're asking that you always wanted to be CFO, right? So sorry, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be executive, not a particular CFO, CEO, or CEO, because I have done, of course, my own business. I was founder, I was COO. I run whole operations. And I think that, I wanted to be able to put a team together, grow the business. That's a goal. That goal has not been changed since I was younger.
Yeah. That makes sense. Being a leader definitely makes sense how you led to you being in the C-suite. And even though good at numbers were not, that's what perhaps helped you become a CFO in some cases as well. So talking about, people with being a woman and being Asian women particularly, it's not as common to have CFOs like that. What were some of the key challenges you experienced while growing your finance career all the way to today? We would love to learn more about that and kind of how you work through them as well. Yeah.
So Micy, I think the challenges to any leaders pretty equal. when you look at this, become a good leader, become executive or C-level, everybody need to be high effective leaders to have all the skills, quality that everybody has. It doesn't really matter, I think, male, female, or age or background. As back to what I said, you got to know what's the true north of the business or not. So I think everybody, what I love America is that it create, provide equal opportunities that you may not be able to find in any other country in the world. That's why we're called American dreams. So I would see that the challenge, of course, everybody has a challenge. I think that, I feel very, as I said, very blessed with people surrounding me, all the leaders surround me. And the years, of course, the friendship, the networking I built, I can reach out anytime and ask for ideas, feedback. Very, very blessed that way.
Understand. So I was also wondering, because you talked about it's really about doing the work, and this country offers great opportunities, which I completely agree. How did you overcome those any challenges you had because you are different? I understand, like, it's important to do a good job, but also it's not just about doing the work, which I know it's a little stereotype about Asians doing hard work, but also it's about a lot of relationship building and relating to other people, whether it's your business customers or company customers or your direct reports and things like that. For example, when I was being in the IT space in another company in Chicago, a lot of people in the office, they were talking about football, American football. And that's like, the only thing I know is like Patrick Mahomes is really awesome in Kansas City. That's because of my husband, who I married last year. Before that, I didn't really know much or follow much about it. And because of those subtle differences, sometimes you can feel left out and you feel like you may not have as strong of a relationship or bond with the different groups that you could be having that could be recognizing and noticing you more. Did you experience anything like that in path to where you are today?
Of course, Micy, everybody cannot have all the sports and all the culture or not. For me, is that you and I chatted before that I learn a lot. I love to learn, and I got not talk about morning routine or not. Everybody has their own routine. So for me, every morning when of course, first thing I do early morning, I do my workout. Because I've been running for years, my life. But also it's really about learning about how to be a good leader, learn how to communicate better with your peers and your team in general, with people. And I'm learning about the knowledge that I need to acquire for who I am, where I am today. Another thing I think is that it's become who I am. I feel like, before we talk about the fake and myth before you make it. But now I think is that I am me. And I care about my team, my people. I care about, the business. I think that's a fundamental. Football, as you mentioned, connected people in a way. But I think it's true. Yourself actually being true you, end of the day, go a long way. As long as you do, of course, continue to develop yourself, continue learning. I don't have to really study football, watch football every time but or not. So I think it's again, every leader have a different style. My style is, of course, I present to me. Every time you see me, doesn't matter I'm at work, I'm off work and life, um, I'll carry pretty much a similar style.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, I recall reading a book called Executive Presence. In there was one specific example about how the women, I think the book was more focused on women's executive presence. And it was talking about how some people, they would try to mimic other people of power, even if they're very different from them. Maybe learning golf or football games and different things like that. But I love what you said about staying true for yourself, because we don't want one type of leaders anyway. So we want diversity, not just in skin of color, in our cultural background, but the way we really solve business problems. We're delivering solutions to our customers and making an impact and thinking outside the box as well. So I really appreciate you saying that and reminding us as well, because it's so easy to get social pressured and feel left out. But we need to stay true to our goals and the facts that we know of. But of course, that's just one of the strategy, right? So if others use a different strategy, that could also work as well. Yeah. So going back to kind of our Asian heritage. So and you mentioned a little bit as well about Asian heritage shaped who you are today. Asian is a very broad concept. I do have to say that, and we just happen to have the same heritage from a cultural standpoint, the Asian part. But Vietnamese culture could be somewhat different from Indian culture, could be somewhat different from Pakistani culture. So I definitely don't want to generalize here, but just based on your experience, kind of living through China to Canada to US, how has that shaped you and your success today? Any values that has helped you? What hindered you? I would love to know about that and how you have elevated yourself or through those good values, or what you may consider to be more of a problem values in your perspective.
So Micy, I think fundamental is a family value shaped, has shaped who I am today. I grew up at a family with unconditional love, which gave me greater confidence from early on when I was a child until now. And when I look back at my career, of course, being working in different countries, always in the international world, I think that the family, when I grew up, the parents' education, the hard work we talk about, of course, in most Asian work very hard, continue learning and discipline, all this great value carry, of course. And one of this, of course, become top of the legacy, not only for my children, but also hopefully I could potentially influence other people who want to become the path that I have been. So I think the culture, when I look back, is that I actually become a blended culture. I found that everywhere I go, for example, when I was in investment banking, head of Asia, I went to China. When I was in China, I felt that I fit very well because that's where I came from. But when I deal with, of course, North America business or international business, I found I'm part of that as well because of my past experience. End of the day, fundamental is about how to deal with people, right? How to really think about other people's needs. How to, this is a kind of, it doesn't matter what a career we're at, what level we're at. That's, I think, to me, that's fundamental. Build a good relationship with the people.
Got it. That's awesome. Thanks for those messages. So one thing that I was thinking when I was listening to you, I was thinking about my personal struggles. And I came to the Western world, you could call it, later than you. But being the oldest of 3 and then 4 in the family, I felt the Asian culture has I wouldn't say provided, but has given me a lot of pressure in like doing really well. And I can really say that it's more of an Asian pressure because my husband doesn't get that. So I can say that because he's not Asian and he hasn't even traveled to Asia yet. So I can see that. So how do you balance, hopping out with your family, maybe due to your cultural upbringing, and also taking care of your family here in the U.S. and working your career and having a fulfilling life, having a good health? I can go on and on, but I just get stressed sometimes thinking about how many people I need to like take care of. Not like literally taking care of, but sort of taking care of. So sometimes I get stressed because I'm like, I need to really help them out, but sometimes I know that I'm probably overthinking it. They can really take care of themselves. So I would just love to know your thoughts, because it's not just a career we're talking about today. It's about how we're building a legacy with our existing families, future generations, and how do you be a balance, not just a workaholic, work hard, but the balance, the image you're showing them. I would love to learn more about that.
So Micy, of course, stress, pressure is real, right? Everybody, it doesn't matter where your background you come from, you do have that sense of, pressure, but depends on culture, of course, or not. What I truly believe is that just like at our airplane, you got to just first take care of yourself. As a mother, of course, as wife, as a career woman or not. So what I think is that as long as you take care of yourself, you set up a good example for your family and your friends, hopefully community or not. For me, I feel like I do my best because I enjoy the business world so much. If you enjoy what you do, it's not a work. It is kind of work, right? But it's not a really, you get a lot of course, joy from what you do. I also look at my family, my children, and I just hope that they enjoy what does they do. End of the day, it doesn't really matter what does they do as long as you enjoy. So the pressure, I don't feel personal. Maybe I'm getting better. I don't feel a lot of pressure about how to really take care of family, all this, because I think that as long as I set up a good example, they can take care of themselves. I don't know is that too simple or not, but that's what I try to practice. My family see how I live our life, how I discipline years, and I never stop exercises, for example, and I never stop learning in the morning. Of course, my 5 a.m. club or not, I've been doing this for years. I just think that as long as we feel confident about ourselves, and that should be set up a good example for others.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reminding us that it's not just about money. It's not just about work. It's about so much more. The image you present to your family, because who knows, maybe because you took the time to actually take care of yourself, that maybe your younger siblings really learned that to also take care of themselves. And so they're not always dependent on you. So I think it's really encouraging that you send us this message, because I know so many great people come into this country under so much pressure to perform for themselves and for their family, whether it's in the technology space, finance space, so many spaces. So thank you for leaving that message and letting them know that, taking care of yourself is the most important thing to start with. That way you have the strength and the power and the positivity to take care of others and truly enjoy a life that, along with your family members. And your loved ones and to build a legacy from there. I really appreciate that message. Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, does your family have any traditions that are especially important to you, kind of relating to the Asian heritage part? It doesn't have to be Asian, just heritage in general, just because, like you mentioned, we're so multicultural, right? From different countries. Like I enjoy many things from other countries as well. So was just curious, kind of from a personal fun fact side.
Yeah, so of course, every family have their own traditions. One thing, of course, I don't think it's a tradition or not, but it's more, the kids speak languages, speak Chinese beyond other languages that they learn in North America, so that they can know the culture better if they go back or interact with family in China. We do fun things, right? We do dumplings. We are very at home. We do a lot of Chinese traditional cooking, all this. I think that I want our legacy, as you mentioned, or heritage to be carried forward, because after all, it's very rich culture, history, just like any other country that we're learning. So I really wanted, of course, hope I can do a better job of keep them speak as good in Chinese as it could be, but they all speak multiple languages, but at least they have one language is Chinese. So they're going to become a mix like us too, right? But still partially Asian culture, carry that culture forward. I hope.
Understood. Yes. Carry part of us forward. I think that's important, whether we label it Asian or not. Hopefully, passing the goodness and the legacy around, giving our future generation the choice, of course. So I like to kind of bring other things we talked about to home a little bit, through all your finance careers and on your own companies. What tips can you give people who aspire to be in executive position in their industry, whether it's finance or just in general executive positions?
I think that first of all, you got to have a goal, right? If you don't have your goal, you don't know where to go. Micy, you and I talk about this. I know clearly your goal is. That's why you're doing what you do. Secondly, you have that, people have that goal to be executive. Now you got to find out that, hey, what it takes to be that level. You got to prepare yourself, not just the title, but really the work, the self-development, the continual learning, the relationship build, know the business, all the great stuff together. And, are you willing? It's not just you hope you do this action. Are you willing to put work like everything else? And, that's what I would say. Hey, if you have, there's a will, there's a way. But first of all, you got to know that's where you want it to be. You got to enjoy, right? You got to joy from the process, which I have in my career. I think as executive, it doesn't matter which C-level, they all have to have, of course, great leadership skills, communication, presentation skills, and also know the business, right? Not only just know your part of the business, your function, such as the operation, finance, and marketing, sales, but across, well-rounded. Being strategic for me is that become a strategic partner to CEO. That's what I have been doing. And really look at a company with the true north where we're going. Not only know where we are at, but also really know our markets, know our customer, know where we're going. So this is not just, hey, if you're traditional CFO, you know your numbers, you get a CPA, now today, CFO truly become a business partner. I always go back and say, hey, do you know your business well? Do you know your team well? So those are, I guess for me is that for any people want to become this, start building. I actually, just to give you a story, when I was working for USG that time, I was a senior manager. One day I went to CFO office. I said, Rick, one day I want to sit in your seat. What should I do? That's exactly what I said. He told me what I should do. So of course I've been doing this for quite a few years. It proved to be working.
Okay, that's awesome. So one thing you mentioned that kind of piqued my interest is communication skills. Being that English wasn't your first language, what are the things you did to improve your communication skills, which is very, very crucial in executive position?
I want to go back years when I, of course, before I moved from Canada to here, that I actually attended Toastmaster for years.
Toastmaster. Yes, it's such a great resource. Most companies offer it. Well, you have places nearby. People should take advantage of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think is that not only for second course English speaker, but even for people who the first language is English, right? So the communication skill, not just see how well you speak, is about really how do you communicate with others. I remember that I went to Toastmaster once a week or twice a week. I remember I did probably 20 speeches in 2 years. I wrote my speech. I practiced my speeches in front of the mirror, even in front of my kids. You see, hey, feedback or not. Again, I'm glad I did it.
Got it. Yeah. Toastmasters and other sources for the communication skills. That's awesome. So I think that was kind of the last question I had. I'm going to talk about the key takeaways here, just to wrap up this conversation with you, Sandy. Is there anything else you'd like to let the audience know about what it took to be a CFO to get to where you are today, apart from the points that we covered?
If you want to connect me, please reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, and I may not have get back to you right away, but I will look forward to connecting with you. And if anything I could help, I'll be happy to do so. And this is great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So here are the 3 takeaways I have from listening to Sandy's talk today. So number 1, when she talks about her family values and her heritage, is that her family values shaped her and shapes us to who we are today, no matter whether we want to admit it or not, or proudly carrying it forward. It does live within us. And the second thing is take care of ourselves so that we're better equipped to take care of others, especially our family, our loved ones, and our dreams and goals. And the number 3 takeaway would be tips to being in the executive positions. Know your goals clearly and do it step by step, and know your business, know your team, and don't forget your communication skills. And that's going to be important whether you're a CFO, CEO, CTO, or just in business, growing your career in general, or even having your own business. Like in this case, I am with my company, Life Mission Capital, where I work also another job. Like communication skills is just so important. So thank you so much, Sandy, for being with us today. You're welcome to stay in if you have time. As we move on to the next topic, where we'll talk with Tina here on health is wealth. So I'm going to enable Tina to be on the presentation here. Tina, when you get a chance, you can.
Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can.
Great.
How are you, Tina?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, of course. So we're so excited to have Tina here. She's actually a colleague of mine through my other job, talking about hardworking Asians. Here I am working 2 jobs. That was a joke. But I'm really excited to have Tina here, not only because she's a friend, a colleague, but because her story really inspires me and inspired other people that when I had her share her story. So Tina, today we'll talk about health is wealth. And she's a health nut from a physical, psychological, and emotional standpoint, like holistic health nut. So, but at one point, did you know that she could not even run 5 minutes on the treadmill? Like, what changed? Her demanding cybersecurity job did not change. It's still demanding. I know that because when I text her, she's like, I'm on pager. It's been a tough week on pager. But what changed? So let's learn more about her story, how she embarked and grew on the journey of health and wealth, because we'll learn that as she got her health under control, she actually grew her wealth along the journey as well. So going back to what Sandy said, take care of yourself before taking care of others. So Tina has over 15 years of experience in information technology infrastructure and 2 years in cybersecurity. She's a graduate from University of Arkansas with a computer engineering degree with a minor in math. So without further ado, Tina, I'd like to start just asking you to introduce a little bit more about yourself, anything I didn't cover that you'd like the audience to know before we dive into some of the questions about how you've been building your legacy for yourself, your family, and your loved ones.
Sure. So I came to the US when I was about 10 years old, and since then have made you here my home. As you mentioned about America represented freedom to your people, it actually represented opportunities for us. My aunt over here, she came here, she got married, and then she came here, and it took her about 10 years for her to complete all the paperwork to get all of us to here. When she started the paperwork, I was not even born yet. My oldest sister was actually just born. And then my older brother was born, and so she had to amend the paperwork. And then I was born, and then my youngest brother was born. So the paperwork was kind of dragged out for 10 years. So we finally came here and stayed here ever since in Northwest Arkansas. My parents came here and they didn't know any English, so they took the only job that was available to them at the time, which was being custodian, cleaning the University of Arkansas. And so that's the money they used to raise us, to feed us. And even though they had minimum pay, it was a lot better than what we had in Vietnam, because in Vietnam my parents didn't have the education needed, and there wasn't a lot of jobs available then. So only my dad was able to. He was kind of like he instead of a taxi, he would ride his bike and he would take people from point A to point B, and that's how he make money. And so that wasn't a lot of money for 4 kids. And so a lot of times we didn't know from day to day whether we would have enough food or not. So we were just kind of living like that. At least when we came here, the job was stable, even though it wasn't a lot of pay, but it was stable and we had shelter. And so that's how we lived for the first, 15, 16 years of my life. I am currently working for, as you mentioned, Walmart technology division in the cybersecurity area. I have 3 cats who I spoil run, and my hobbies consist of learning to maximize my health and my investments and running. About 8 to 9 years ago, I found real estate investment and have since used it as a tool for financial independence. And we'll go shortly into this later on how I started that journey.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tina, for going over that. So it's interesting, and a lot of us are probably having a similar background as you, coming from more of a humble beginnings. And thanks to this country has really given us the opportunity, and also to not just to thrive, but also to make an impact and give back to this country in many ways as well. So with your tech background, I understand it's very demanding. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you were struggling health-wise and from a tech background standpoint? And I would love to get into kind of the aha moment about how you made the transition a little bit as well.
Okay, so when I was in Vietnam, when we were all in Vietnam, we were thin without a lot of effort. We walked and we biked everywhere. We ate very little processed food because we didn't have a lot of money anyway. And so we mostly just ate rice, fresh meat, and veggies that we purchased from the street market that same day. Well, within 5 years of being in the US, I rapidly gained the weight and had a lot of acne. And everyone just thought that was just part of being a teenager's growing pain. And then it got really worse throughout high school and college and carried it onto my professional career. I would get like painful periods and migraines once a week, and then always tired, and I would get a cold every couple of weeks. Most days I couldn't get through lunchtime without needing a nap. I remember having to go to my car at lunchtime to take naps so I could have the energy to work the second half of the day. So I went to my family doctor for the migraines, and she didn't ask me anything about my diet or sleep, and instead prescribed me medication for it. I asked her what was the root cause of the migraines, and she told me I was just really unlucky to get them. I didn't take the prescription, and then again, doing a few years later, doing an annual checkup, I mentioned it again about my migraines. She again prescribed me more medication, but again, I just didn't want to take it because subconsciously, I just didn't think it was normal to have to feel bad all of the time. And around this time, the job was really demanding. I mean, I was working. It wasn't uncommon working on the weekends because I started working, and I just loved working because it was new and exciting, and I was learning a lot, and I want to take more work. And so I didn't mind the work. I just minded that I didn't have the energy to follow the passion that I had at the time. So
I see. Yeah, I think a lot of us chose a career based on some level of passion as well. And it really sucks, if I can say that, when your health can't take care of or can't handle the job. And in this case, I remember you telling me that, you couldn't even run a treadmill for a few minutes.
no. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was in such a bad shape when I was in engineering school, and we would have between classes, I would have to walk up this hill to go to another building to get to my next class, and literally, like, I would have to take breaks every few seconds just to breathe because I couldn't walk up that hill. And I thought at the time, I'm like, this is just not normal, because I remember being a kid and running everywhere and having the energy to do whatever I wanted. And I just never correlated the food that I was eating, the lack of exercise, to my health at the time. I never correlated that. It only became an aha moment much later in my life, literally 15 years later. So I suffered through it for 15 years before I figured out that was the case.
Yeah, understand. Yeah, I remember hearing that story. But I know that it wasn't just a sad story, because you had aha moment, and that's slowly led to where you're today. So tell us about that. Like, what happened? How are you able to not only gain your health, but then as you got your health, gaining towards the wealth? What was that pivoting point?
So it's an ironic story, because it actually started out as more of a problem, and then it turns into a blessing. I joined a new team around that time, and then there was a new manager coming in at around the same time that I did. And we just didn't get along. I got along really well with my previous managers before then, but there were several factors that came into play. And so we had a really hard time just seeing eyes to eyes, and she didn't trust me and I didn't trust her. And we couldn't get past that. And again, there was someone else telling her some of the lies, so she just chose to believe that person. So anyway, I around that same time, Walmart started the layoff, like annual layoff. They would, they would give you the bad news. You don't know anything, you don't hear anything, and then suddenly you get the bad news, and you'd have no idea what get you out of the door, right? And so I was sitting here thinking, well, I don't get along with my manager, and this layoff is ongoing, and I just purchased my home. So what do I do? Like, what would happen if I were to be fired or to be laid off? And since I was about 15, 16, I started supporting my mom financially. Like I would go to school full time. I would work almost 40 hours a week to have enough money to supplement my mom's income. And because my dad wasn't doing it, and so I was responsible for her. And so I didn't want to be the victim, because all my life I saw how my dad was using the ability to have money to control my mom mentally, emotionally, right? And so I didn't want to get into that victim mindset. And so I had to figure out a way. And here I was, I didn't have the energy to work. I was working 55 to 65 hours a week for months. My manager wasn't supporting me. I felt like I could be laid off at any moment. And so my back was against the wall. And so by the grace of God, I don't know how it happened, but I stumbled upon this book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And it's nothing about religions or even real estate. It talks about the morning routine, and Sandy mentioned about her morning routine earlier. But this one, it actually talk about very specific practices that would help us conquer our day. And so the morning routine consists of 6 lifesavers, and it's spelled SAVERS practices. And the first S stands for silence. The A stand for affirmation. The V stand for visualization. The E stand for exercise. The R stand for reading, and the last S stands for scribing or journaling. So the practice silence, you get up and you would just sit there and just kind of meditate a little about just get your mind free up so you could start your day. And the affirmation is when you kind of affirm where you are and you understand the situation and where you want to be. The visualizing is more like, where do I want to be? What my goals are? Exercise is get some movement in, because without the author believe, Hal Elrod, he actually got into a car accident, and the doctor told him he would never walk again. And he not only walked, he ran ultra marathon later because he refused to believe in the doctor. So he wrote this book, The Miracle Morning, because he actually put these practices, implemented it, and actually got through all of that. So he believed exercise is one of the things that, that got him through all of this. Reading is where he believes that you have to nourish your mind. You always have to be in constant learning mode, because the only time you don't learn is you don't grow. And if you don't grow, you're pretty much, your brain is dead. And so you always learn, and you do that by reading. And scribing is more of like journaling. You write down your thoughts so you can just kind of dump all your information down somewhere so you can use it for reference later. So once I read the book and I learned all these practices, I started getting up every day 4 to 5 a.m. every morning, like even on the weekend. And I would religiously follow these practices. I tried the exercising part. I would, bike on my stationary bike for 5 minutes and then had to take a break and then try it again. And then that led me to walking and jogging. And eventually I could run, 15, 16 miles today, not with no preparation. And so doing my workout, what I did was I started reading books, and instead of reading books, I would listen to audible books or podcasts, right? And so to me, that's part of reading, that's nourishing our minds. And I would listen anything that could improve my situation, my financial, my spiritual, my physical health. And so that's when I started the real estate investing part, and I implemented. And at the same time, I started improving on my health. I started eating better. I learned that the eating 6 times a day that people always talk about wasn't really good for my blood sugar. And that was probably the reason I had to take naps in the middle of the day, because I was eating and my insulin go up and then it crashed. And then I had my energy went way down. And then I also learned what I had a condition called leaky gut. And I didn't know this until much later. But I learned that because of this condition, this is where your gut lining is damaged. And it allowed the bacteria and toxins to pass into your bloodstream. So that the symptoms of this is, tired all the time, lethargy, headaches, acne, and chronic liver disease, all of which I had. Pretty much all the symptoms of leaky gut I had for the last 15 years, and I didn't know it. And so over time, as I listened to podcasts on health, I read books, I listened to books, I just start changing my diet. Like I change one thing at a time, and then I would journal it. And I say, today I change, I incorporate vitamin D into my diet, or put more vitamin C. And I started drinking more green powder, green juice. And that totally transformed my health. All of my health, pretty much all of my health issues went away. Some of them just took few months, and then others actually took years for me to eventually get rid of it. But all my acne that my doctor told me that acne and migraines that my doctor told me that I was just unlucky to get, they all just disappear overnight. It felt like overnight, but it took that, it took a lot of discipline to get there. So that's, and then, at the same time, as I mentioned to you, I learned about real estate investing. And so I started invested, and because my goal at the time, remember, because I went into all this because I had a problem with my manager, and I had to find a way out in case I got fired. And so my goal always was to create enough passive income, or create enough income on the side to replace my job. And so I went into real estate, and that the rest is just kind of history, because I started with something I knew, and then eventually it led me to more of a passive income. And so within about 5 years of after that, I was able to have enough passive income to just completely would be able to finance me indefinitely. It didn't replace my salary, but it would cover pretty much all my basic needs and my mom if needed. And I was even able to help her retire early. She wanted, because her work was really hard. Like I say, she cleans University of Arkansas, and she always had problem with new management coming in. And so I told her, I said, if you're ready to retire, I can help support you financially. And she had no idea that I had any of this work on the side. Even today, she had no idea that, I have 3 rental properties. I have multiple apartment syndication. I do storage. I do ATMs. She had no idea what I do on the side. She just know that I could support her. And that's all it matters, really.
Isn't that amazing feeling, like being able to, retire one of your parents that has worked so hard to raise you and provide for you, being able to retire them, and all that is done because of you took steps to address your health issues, and that health is, wealth is out. Without health is pointless. But meanwhile, you're getting not only the monetary wealth, but also true wealth, that the ability to enjoy things in life. So that's really inspiring.
Yeah,
Great appreciation that.
Yeah, she loved us. Cindy was talking about how her parents loved her unconditionally, which gave her the um, like the basic background to be able to be where she is. And I felt like that was the same for my mom. There was a lot of issue. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family where my parents pretty much fight all the time. And but my mom, I mean, she didn't have the education, but she loved us unconditionally. And she would change her schedule to where she would work from 4 a.m. so that she could go home early so that she could take us to school. She did a lot of sacrifices for us, and so I saw that. And so throughout the entire thing, my goal has always been, get a good job so that I could return that favor.
Yeah, I totally relate to you. We all started with a purpose. In this case, so one of your purposes is to help retire your mom and provide her a good life. And it went into using a job, a tech job that usually pays pretty well and then you started to build wealth from there. So that's really what the Fireside Chat series is about, to help people see more than just a job, see the purpose and the legacy that they can build for themselves and their family, whether that's through a company they're building or passive income through syndications. And a shameless plug, that's what my company is doing a lot for our customers and investors as well, enabling others to invest well so they can focus on what matters to them.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I want to add that, like throughout all this, where my whole goal the entire time was to find a really good job and, work in it for the next 30, 40 years and then retire. But just the first 10 years that I was here and just working through with so many managers and so many things, I realized that was no longer my goal. My goal was to take care of myself, to have multiple income streams of income, so that I'm not just depending on one job. Because you could be like a golden child to one manager, and the next thing you know, the new management come in and suddenly you're the problem child, and then they're trying to as hard as they can to get rid of you. Fortunately, that hasn't happened to me, but I've seen it happen to multiple other people through layoffs or whatever it is. That's no longer my goal. I'm still where I am at because I love it. I love my team. I like my manager, but I realize on the back of my head that may not last long if I move teams or if new manager comes in. I still need to take care of myself at the end of the day. And how do I do that? Because it's risky. It's risky for all of us to have one single job where 100% of our income it's depending on that one single job.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I had this post on LinkedIn about, you can have maybe two jobs. You can have as many rental buildings, self-storage, and many other assets as you want.
Right.
You brought up a good point about real estate syndications, and I want to tie this back to the health and the work-life balance part, because I recall you started, wanting to gain the wealth, and you started with active investment, managing your properties, and you hired property management companies, and then you moved into syndications. What was your key reasons for the change, and why did you do that?
Great question. So I started out with buying a foreclosure a couple of blocks away from where I lived, and it was a great buy. My friend and I spent, a month or so cleaning it up and get everything replaced so that we could rent it out, and it got great cash flow. I got $300-400 a month or something like that from that. And so it was a great success. So I started buying more single family homes. And then I bought duplexes, 6 duplexes, and then I tried to manage those duplexes myself in addition to the single family homes. And I found out very quickly that wasn't what I wanted. It almost killed me because, working, let's say 40 to 50 hours a week with the pager while answering to 14 different tenants, because 6 duplexes are, that's 12 tenants at least. And then I had 2 other single family homes. And so, in the middle of the night, you get a text like my toilet's not working. And literally that's not a cliche, because it's true. I got those texts, right? And I'm here like Googling, trying to figure out how to unplug someone's toilet. And I was like, okay, this is not working. And so I quickly found out this is not the way I want to be, where I want to be, because the income is supposed to help me to be more financially free, not to buckle me down or exhausted me. And so I quickly found a good property manager and handed that over. What shifted me to apartment syndication is I think it's more passive as well. And I wanted to diversify more, and it's just make financial sense, where, and here's what I learned too, that it took me a while to be able to invest in apartment syndication, because a lot of them requires you to be accredited investor, right? So you have to have high income or high net worth, and I had sort of neither. I was close, but I wasn't close enough, and so it did take me a little bit to get there. But what it does is, these people know so much more than I do, because that's their full-time job, right? They have multiple teams. They have people on the ground checking out the apartments. They have property managers that they already lined up, and they have leverage with that property manager. They do this for a living, so they have the expertise. They know the location. They know all the lawyers, and so instead of me having to learn all of that, because that's not my full-time job, I still have a full-time job. Why don't I just delegate that part to them? I still need to understand enough about the investment and read it and understand it to know this is where I want to be. But other than that, it's a lot more passive. And looking at the math, a lot of these were giving me 8 to 10% return, preferred return, and then within 5 to 7 years you pretty much get double your money back once they sell the properties. So even financial sense, it makes a lot of sense. So that's why I shifted to apartment syndication. And there's also the risk part, where if you own one single family home or even 2, and if your tenants, something happens to your house or your tenants leave, and it takes a while to get new tenants in, well, that's half of your passive income in a way. Apartments, usually these are 200, 300, 400 units. And so if one tenants go away, even 10% go away, that's still only 10% of that whole investment. So it doesn't hurt you as much. You don't see as much of the impact. So that's why definitely. I shifted. That's definitely why I shift toward apartments.
Yeah, definitely. I think the key thing to realize through all these changes in decisions, and from your habit to your investment strategy and things like that, is to understand, like, it's not just about work. It's not just about money. It's about having the health to enjoy the other things in life, or even work, and also having the time to enjoy those things as well. That's what I feel like true wealth and legacy is. It's no longer, always wearing a suit, tied to a desk, 8 to 5. Like, overwork is not, like, I'm not a product of overworking, to be honest. So. Anyways, I wanted to kind of shift the topic a little bit, coming back to the health, because we know that you have this transformational process that you experienced, going from unhealthy to healthy, and really build up your wealth from there as well, grow a portfolio. So, can you tell me a little bit about, have you experienced burnout? Since you implemented the Miracle Morning, or in the recent years? And any tips for those, especially for people who may be working 2 jobs or 1 job, or having a full-time job as a mom, or as a father, or as a son, a daughter, I don't know, maybe some other responsibility they have, having burnout. What tips would you have, if you've ever experienced that?
Well, definitely, I definitely experienced burnouts. I mean, some of the burnouts, like the first time was, going to college full time and having to work 40 hours a week to have the income to help my mom. The so my degree supposed to take 4.5 years to 5 years, just because of a lot of the math classes that we had to take. But I actually took a bunch of classes in the summer, and I had some of the what do you call it? Some credits that I went that got me, so that give me college credit. So I actually finished it in 3.5 years, and I really wanted to finish as soon as possible because I was broke and I really need to find a good job. So that was a full burnout. I think the only thing that got me through it was just the unwillingness to give up, because giving up wasn't an option, right? I knew what my goals was, and so I stayed at it. That probably didn't help with my health, though. The health part actually came later. But since what advice do I have? The couple of things I learned from those burnouts is that we humans are very resilient. If we know our why, and if we keep moving, even if we have to slow down a little bit to get our health back, we will get there eventually. So the only time that we fail is when we stop moving and we stop trying. I also learned after multiple obstacles is that every time that I face like an opportunity that I feel like, how do I get through it? Instead of seeing as an obstacle, I see it as an opportunity, and I would ask God, and I said, what is it in here that you want me to learn? Because I think as soon as I learn it, I can overcome it. It's funny that way. It's one, like the issues where I had with my manager, the entire 3 years that I had to deal with that, it felt like hell, literally. And but I learned and I transformed. And as soon as I did that, all the problems went away. The person who was actually giving me the problem, that was telling her the lies, he actually got fired. He got laid off. And so my manager then learned that it wasn't me that was the issue, it was this other person. So within 6 months after that person was gone, she gave me Associate of the Month, Associate of the Quarter, Spark Award, which gave me an extra week of pay. She promoted me. She gave me model eval. So I got all this incentives the 3 years after I went through that difficult part. And so I learned that it doesn't matter how difficult things are. We will get over it if we could just keep trying. What we need to usually reflect is make sure that we do take care of our health, because sometimes you can't get the health back. Sometimes once your health go away, it's really hard to get it back. So fortunately, I found that out, and so I regained my health while building up my passive income. And so I feel very blessed that I'm able to figure that out quickly. And there's a story of this guy. I think he owns what's called the Millionaire. Was it Blocking Millionaire? And his name is Brandon Gale. And he was in his 20s. He was working really hard building his empire. And he had 2 companies. And then the doctor told him he had this really weird, rare disease that he could die any moment. And so he went through multiple doctors to figure out what can they do to help. And one of them finally said, well, the reason you're in such a bad shape, you have the disease, but the reason you're in such a bad shape is because you didn't sleep for the last 6 years of your life. Like, you never went into deep sleep. Like, you never sleep, your body never get the chance to recover. So what the doctor did was give him drugs and induce him, and he would sleep like straight 36 to 48 hours straight, just so his body could recover and fight whatever this disease was. And he actually recovered. He lost his 2 companies. His partner kicked him out. And eventually he built up another company, which is what the current one today. So those are the kind of things that we need to recognize, and don't neglect our health because we're trying to make money. Because without our health, you're not going to be able to enjoy your money. You may die before you even get to see any of it. So
Yes, it's a hard cold truth, but it is true. Yeah, especially when I look around, so many people just unexpectedly can pass away among us. So thank you for bringing that home and reminding us that health is wealth, and don't ignore that while you're building your wealth. And yeah, so I like to just cover a few of the key takeaways that you mentioned today, and then we'll go into our raffle for the book today,
Sure.
which is The Miracle Morning that Tina recommended. So the first key takeaway that we had is that prioritize our health. A message that has been stressed many times. We can be the best version of ourselves if we're in our best health condition. And with this, we can more efficiently reach our goals and build our legacy. And the second thing is don't overwork, and burnout is real. It can limit your ability to give your best at everything while you're putting your health on the line. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And the third thing is that we are, in fact, resilient. Be reminded of your whys. The world is not going to fall apart if you get there a day later, or a year later, or a month later. The point is about getting there and how you get there. Like the time, you still spend with your family while you're working towards there, and the memories you make while you're still there, and the impact you're making while you're still getting there. So just as long as we keep moving, we can slow down a little bit as long as we don't stop. So just remember that and prioritize health. Health is wealth. So thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome.
So I guess you would like people to get in touch with you via LinkedIn if they want to follow up with you and have further conversations, right?
Sure. Right. Yes, please.
Okay. So how can they find you on LinkedIn?
If you search for, let me see. Let me type my email, because I think if you search for my email, you can find me on LinkedIn better.
Got it. So while she's pulling that up, what we'll have, okay. So Tina's email is T5 Nguyen, which is her last name, NGUYE@hotmail.com. That's what you can use to find her on LinkedIn, because I do know that your name is common and it's hard to find you sometimes in social media. So yeah. So now we're going to go to our raffle, to the people that registered on this event. So we're raffling out the Miracle Morning book, and the winner is, okay, let's do a drum roll. Okay, the winner is Chase Ross. So what we'll do next is we'll have your contact information. So we'll reach out to you. And feel free to message her and let us know as well. We'll get a book to you, and hopefully you can benefit from not just the talk today, but also the practical tips that you'll be able to learn in the book. That's it, guys, for today's fireside chats, and we'll have more coming as well. Well, just to give you a sneak peek about what's coming. Some part of it, we'll have Yogi Patel, the founder of Pratham USA, where they have helped millions of kids around the world get into their education. We'll have him talk next week, and we'll also have Orina Chang. She's working in the wealth management space. She's going to talk about how to handle risks and in the personal investments. And we'll also talk about financial literacy for kids, which is very important for building a legacy. Now, if we're talking about wealth or habits, not only us having them, but how to pass that along to our generations. So hopefully those will be content that's of value to you. If you think there's other speakers that would be good, we would love to have your input. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or send me an email, Micy@lifemissioncapital.com. So Micy@lifemissioncapital.com. So without further ado, I'd like to end this discussion today, and I look forward to seeing you guys around. And thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your support towards Asian Heritage Month with us, and also building a legacy together. So talk soon, guys.